43. 10. S36. 20, 21. The fourth commandment stated, remembering the Sabbath day to hold it sacred, you are to render service and you must do all your work 6 days. But the seventh day is a Sabbath to Jehovah your God. You must not do any work, you nor your son nor your daughter, your slave man nor your slave girl, nor your domestic animal nor your alien resident who is inside your gates. Acts 20. 8-10. By their holding this day as holy to Jehovah, all, even the slaves and the domestic animals, would have the benefit of refreshing rest. The Sabbath day also provided opportunity to concentrate on spiritual matters without distraction. The fifth commandment, honor your father and your mother, may be viewed as linking together the first four, which define man's duties toward God, and the remaining commandments, which set forth man's obligations towards fellow creatures. For since parents serve as God's representatives, by keeping the fifth command one is honoring and obeying both the Creator and those creatures upon whom God has conferred authority. This command was the only one of the 10 with a promise attached. In order that your days may prove long upon the ground that Jehovah your God is giving you. Acts 20. 12. D5. 16. F6. 2, 3. The next commandments in the code were stated very tersely. The sixth, you must not murder. The seventh, you must not commit adultery. The eighth, you must not steal. Acts 20. 13-15. This is the way these laws are listed in the Masoretic text. From laws dealing with crimes causing the greatest harm to one's neighbor to the one causing the least, in that order. In some Greek manuscripts Codex Alexandrinus, Codex Ambrosianus the order is murder, theft, adultery. Philo the Decalogue, 12:51 has adultery, murder, theft. The Codex Vaticanus, adultery, theft, murder. Going next from deeds to words, the ninth says, you must not testify falsely as a witness against your fellow man. Acts 20. 16. The 10th commandment O textui acute miritra longo, Teraphim 1087 10th against coveting his house, and so forth. Augustine sought to support his theoretical division on the later parallel listing of the Decalogue at Deuteronomy 5. 6-21, where two different Hebrew words in verse 21 are found. Neither must you desire form of heb. Mad. Neither must you selfishly crave form of heb. Wa, rather than on the earlier text in Exodus 20. 17, where just the one verb desire occurs twice. There are other minor differences in the wording between the parallel enumerations of the 10 commandments in Exodus and Deuteronomy, but these in no way affect the force or the meaning of the laws. Whereas, in the former listing, the 10 words are stated in formal legislative style, its later repetition is more narrative in form, for on the latter occasion Moses was merely rehearsing God's commandment in the way of a reminder. The 10 words also appear elsewhere in still other variations, for they were often quoted or cited along with other instructions by Bible writers of both the Hebrew and Christian Greek scriptures. Acts 31. 14. 34. 14, 17, 21. 19. 3, 11, 12. D4. 15-19. 6. 14, 15. Mount 5. 27. 15. 4. Lu 18. 20. Row 13. 9. F6. 2, 3. The 10 words were God-given, hence comprise a perfect law code. When a man versed in the law asked Jesus Christ, Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? Jesus quoted a command that, in effect, epitomized the first 4 or possibly 5 of the 10 commandments, saying, You must love Jehovah your God with your whole heart and with your whole soul and with your whole mind. The rest of the Decalogue, Jesus then summed up in the few words of another command. You must love your neighbor as yourself. Mount 22. 35-40. D6. 5. D19. 18. Christians not under Decalogue. Jesus was born under the law, and he kept it perfectly, finally giving up his life as a ransom for mankind. 4. 1 Joe 2. 2 Furthermore, by his death on the torture stake, he freed those under the law, including the basic 10 words or commandments, by becoming a curse instead of them. His death provided for the blotting out of the handwritten document, it being nailed to the torture stake. 3. 13. Col 2. 13, 14. Nevertheless, a study of the law with its 10 words is essential for Christians, for it reveals God's viewpoint of matters, and it had a shadow of the good things to come, of the reality that belongs to the Christ. Heb 10. 1. Col 2. 17. Ge 6. 2 Christians are not without law toward God, but under law toward Christ. 1 Co 9. 21 But they are not condemned as sinners by that law, for the undeserved kindness of God through Christ provides forgiveness for their errors due to fleshly weakness. Row 3. 23, 24. Tetrah possibly from the Babylonian, meaning ibex. 1. Abraham's father, the 8th generation from Shem. Lu 3. 34. Ge 11. 10-24. 1 Ch1. 24-26 Terah, through his sons Abraham, Nahor, and Haran, became a forefather of numerous tribes. Ge 11. 27. 22. 20-24. 25. 1-4, 13-15. 1 Ch1. 28-42. 2. 1, 2 Terah began having children at 70. While Abraham is listed first, this appears to be because he is the most famous of Terah's sons rather than the firstborn. When Terah died at 205, Abraham was only 75, so Terah must have been 130 when Abraham was born. Ge 11. 26, 32. 12. 4 Sarah was Abraham's half-sister, likely a daughter of Terah by a different wife. Ge 20. 12 Terah's firstborn was most likely Haran, whose daughter was old enough to marry Terah's other son Nahor. Ge 11. 29. Terah lived in Ur of the Chaldeans, and there his family grew up. Ge 11. 28 According to Joshua 24. 2. Terah at one time worshipped gods other than Jehovah, perhaps the moon god Sin, the favored deity of Ur. Nonetheless, when Jehovah called Abraham to leave Ur, Terah's family went along to Haran, where they all lived until after his death about 1943 BCE. Ge 11. 31, 32. Acts 7. 2-4. 2. One of the camps isotextoi acute miritra longo, Turesh 1088 respect to inheritance rights would also explain why Laban was so anxious to recover them, even to the point of taking his brothers with him and pursuing Jacob for a distance of 7 days' journey. Ge 31. 19-30 Of course, what Rachel had done was completely unknown to Jacob. Ge 31. 32, and there is no indication that he ever attempted to use the teraphim to gain the inheritance from Laban's sons. Jacob had nothing to do with idols. At the latest, the teraphim would have been disposed of when Jacob had all the foreign gods turned over to him by his household under the big tree that was close to Shechem. Ge 35. 1-4. In Israel the idolatrous use of teraphim existed in the days of the judges as well as the kings. Ge 17. 5. 18. 14, 17, 20. Ho 3. For it is not likely, though, that the teraphim served for purposes of inheritance in Israel, in view of God's express command against the making of images. X 20. For also, the prophet Samuel spoke of teraphim in parallel with uncanny power, comparing the use of both to pushing ahead presumptuously. 1 Sa 15. 23. And the teraphim were among the appendages of idolatry cleared out of Judah and Jerusalem by faithful King Josiah. 2 Chi 23. 24 Hence, the fact that Michal, the wife of David, had a teraphim image among her possessions suggests that her heart was not complete with Jehovah, and that David either did not know about her having the teraphim image or else tolerated it because she was the daughter of King Saul. 1 Sir 19. 12, 13. Teresh. One of two doorkeepers in the Persian palace who conspired against King Ahasuerus. Upon learning of the plot, Mordecai informed Queen Esther who, in turn, revealed it to the king. Teresh and his accomplice were hanged on a stake, and the incident was entered in the royal records. As 2. 21-23. 6. 1, 2. Tertius from Lat. Meaning third. The writer or transcriber of Paul's letter to the Romans, and the only one of Paul's secretaries identified by name. Tertius inserts his own personal greetings to the Romans. Row 16. 22. Datullus Tullas from Lat. Diminutive of Tertius. A public speaker who presented the Jews' case against Paul before Governor Felix in Caesarea. Of what Luke recorded, much of Datullus' statement personally praises Felix, with only a very brief accusation against Paul, attempting to implicate him with the frequent seditions against Rome. Act 24. 1-8 Nothing definite is known as to Datullus' nationality, whether Jewish or Roman. Testicles. Male genital glands. God's law to Israel barred from the priesthood a man having his testicles broken, as one of several disqualifying physical defects. Law 21. 17-21, 23 This high standard for the priesthood was in harmony with the holiness of the office of the priests as representatives of Jehovah's holiness before Israel. It likewise accords with the fact that Israel's priesthood symbolized the heavenly priesthood of Christ and his congregation of under-priests, among whom there is found no blemish. Heb 7. 26. F5. 27. Re 14. 1, 5. 20.